almost an occasion in itself, bumper-to-bumper traffic when holidaymakers head north in search of sunshine. But today, the highway's traditional trouble spots were surprisingly hassle-free for motorists. Traffic flowed freely from Newcastle north to Karua.
It's the quietest Boxing Day for quite a few years.
But local business people say this year travellers have simply changed their plans and expect there is worse to come.
Well, it's almost non-existent with the traffic the way it's been today, but I think it's the quiet before the storm.
And they say not even the RTA's best-made plans will prevent chaos. Further south, Central Coast politician Jim Lloyd says the Pacific Highway isn't used enough as an alternative route to the F3, which, typical of this time of year, slowed to a crawl at Mount White late this morning. He's been running a campaign to have the freeway widened to 3 lanes.
Often people have said, well, if you widen it there, it's only going to move the traffic jam further down the road. But the reality is that is the major cause of delays during peak hour.
But it's not all good news on the roads this festive season. Police say motorists aren't heeding their warnings. Just 4 days into Operation Safe Arrival, police in the Hunter region have arrested 53 people for drink driving, compared with just 101 for the entire 2 weeks of the operation last year. The number of people booked for not wearing seatbelts is also a concern. Brooke Webster, NBN News.
The blue water wonderland of Port Stephens has again become a magnet for Christmas holiday makers. Despite a sluggish start, visitors are snapping up what little accommodation there is left.
We're a bit concerned about 10 days out from Christmas. We're wondering if we're going to fill, and then all of a sudden the phone started to run hot. The weather was great.
And it seems while there are more tourists visiting Port Stephens, they are only staying for short periods compared to last year.
There's a bigger turnover of our visitors. Therefore, there's a lot more people drifting around experiencing the place, and the shorter breaks seem to be the issue.
And in line with recent trends, caravan parks are again proving popular with families.
Parents can relax and the children are occupied, whereas if you're in a motel room, you're terribly restricted to the room.
Occupancy rates are at capacity at most parks in the region. Bookings for cruises and dolphin tours are also in high demand, with visitors flocking to see the region's aquatic assets.
I would say probably in the vicinity of about 4,000 people are going dolphin watching, over the whole day. A lot of the boats go out 2 or 3 times, so it's very popular.
Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
it gives a sense that we'll be around in 10 years, we'll be around in 20 years and around in 30 years.
Why is that good if there's just one big player?
Traffic snarls over the Christmas period have become synonymous with the tiny township of Korua. But yesterday, in a dramatic turnaround, motorists experienced a dream run up the Pacific Highway from Raymond Terrace. Today, northbound traffic was backed up 5 kilometres to the Swan Bay turnoff, but it was still moving, causing only minor delays.
It's a bit of a hassle, it's not too bad, the heat doesn't help.
Most took the delays in their stride with good cheer.
It's just to be expected, so it doesn't matter.
Others praised the new double lanes as alleviating traffic congestion.
Good roads made it better, just hopefully they can put it right through to the other side, the Bulletin Mountains there. Yeah, it'd be much better.
Meanwhile, a shortage of unleaded fuel is continuing to leave some service stations high and dry. Oil giant Caltex has confirmed problems at its Kurnell refinery, which supplies fuel to 2/3 of the state's petrol stations, are to blame. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
Ask most racers and they'd tell you it doesn't matter who won today's invitational race. Making sure respective boats are in top condition for Heat 1 tomorrow is the real aim. But you couldn't hide the competitive nature of these crews, especially the Gary Brunnages skippered craft Luxaflex Window Fashions. Brunnages can see no better way to make it 5 title wins than in home waters.
Because it's at home, it'd be a very, very big thrill if we did win. But, you know, I've got to say, we're just one of the contenders.
Fellow Belmont sailor Alan Cummings is definitely one of those, but a host of local crews are considered good things for the #1 crown. The one they all have to beat, however, is from Georges River, with Lee Napton out to make it 2 from 2 after winning the national title last year in just his first attempt.
Yeah, it would be good to do it again, but we'll see what happens.
While it's a different crew to last year's, all 3 have national titles to their credit.
A little bit lighter this year, but we're all pretty experienced in the skiffs, so it shouldn't make much difference.
With 85 craft in the regatta, heats can be won and lost in no time at all.
In championships like this, a large fleet just means it's very important to get a good start and the first beat. That's what's very important in the big fleet.
For the record, luxury yacht charters won today, but it'll count for nothing when the gun fires in the opening heat tomorrow.
In just one night, police seized 35 fake or doctored driver's licences.
It sends out a fairly frightening message, really. It tells me that there are a vast number of young people, juveniles, who are obtaining false identifications to get into nightclubs.
Police say some had taken painstaking care to make licences look legitimate, but security staff confiscated others that displayed glaringly obvious attempts to alter birth dates. More worrying for police, though, is that 5 juveniles had real licences.
Some of the licences appear to be quite authentic, and that would indicate that people are taking false information and obtaining them by fraudulent means.
Police will now notify the Roads and Traffic Authority, which argues it has the toughest proof of age requirements in the nation. The RTA says a new photographic computer system to come online early next year will make counterfeiting near impossible. Teenagers caught for fraud can be fined up to $2,500. In this case, police are letting first-time offenders off with a caution after contacting their parents. Vanessa Trezise, NBN News. Police say the 28-year-old woman had been asleep on her lounge room floor when she awoke to discover her curtains on fire. She then raised the alarm with neighbours.
She said, "Can I use the phone? I've got a fire." And I said, "Oh, okay." She said, "Get a bucket of water." So filled up the bucket, grabbed it, raced up to the corner of the unit and stood there and saw the flames and I just said, "Oh no, the bucket's not going to help."
The building was evacuated, the victim thankful her small child was not with her last night.
Given the proximity of the fire and the amount of damage that was caused, she can count herself very lucky indeed to be alive, if not seriously injured.
The rented unit destroyed. The fire is believed to have been sparked by a candle or cigarette. The victim was not insured. Meantime, police are still investigating the cause of a suspicious fire at the Heaton Birmingham Gardens Bowling Club early on Saturday morning. Vanessa Trezise, NBN News.
Pleased that they're out and happy that they're well.
Zena's going very well. You know, she's reputed as being a downwind boat, but this is all upwind, and she's well clear of the rest of the boats, and we expect her to be the first boat in still.
On the 26th of February, about 4,500 new students will begin lectures at the University of Newcastle. The information sessions, continuing tomorrow, enable prospective students to talk to staff and current students about course preferences and campus life.
I think it's very important that you come to the university that you're hoping to get an offer to and just get a feel for the place.
Now that university entrance scores have been released, students may be reconsidering their preferences and need a chance to explore their options.
To get that kind of advice, so you really need to speak about your own case and your own preferences to a staff member or to an experienced student.
Meanwhile, the Education Department is running its advisory centre again this year. Until Friday, careers advisors will be offering students information about their future options. School leavers can drop into Centrelink on King Street or call 1300 300 687. Alison Fletcher, NBN News. Four false starts passed before the Heron class was underway in the 42nd National Sailing Championships this afternoon. Once the starting line had been lengthened to accommodate the entire pack, the racing became serious, Abracadabra taking an early lead. Aided by a northeasterly wind of about 12 to 15 knots, the skippers were able to pick up top speed over the 9-kilometre course. In less than 2 hours, skipper Don Jamieson sailed Abracadabra over the finish line, almost 1.5 minutes ahead of rival Bob Brewer, sailing his Heron Bullwinkle. Today was Abracadabra's fourth win in the series, making it almost impossible for the Heron not to take away the title after the 7th race ends on Saturday. With only 3 races to go, organisers are hoping the fine weather predicted will continue until Saturday. Meanwhile, Belmont's John Boyd has tightened his grip on the National Skiffs crown. Skilled Engineering crossed the line first for the 4th race in a row this afternoon. Only failing to finish in the 2 remaining heats can cost the crew the title. Alison Fletcher, NBN News.
Some of the things like the police assistance line, our ability to communicate with our Queensland counterparts and things like that were temporarily disrupted. We had to revert to some fairly old-fashioned landline type communications.
fracture which has healed but is still a little tender.
"42 bush and grass fires have blazed across the Hunter in the past 2 days. No sooner is one blaze under control when another lights up. Firefighters believing some are being intentionally lit. They're calling on the community to look out for new fires and any suspicious activity surrounding them.
We do ask that the community themselves be vigilant and watch for any suspicious circumstances in the bush areas.
Yesterday's fire at Rankin Park was brought under control last night, but rekindled around midday today, keeping residents on alert.
Fire department just leaves, 20 minutes later it sparks up again, you know, and yeah, it leaves a churning feeling in your stomach.
It didn't take long to spread.
Just a small one just over here, and probably 20 minutes later it took all this.
Since yesterday, fires have torn through hundreds of hectares. Abermain the latest to test resources. Meanwhile, the Rural Fire Service is denying reports firefighters were lucky to escape yesterday after their tanker was surrounded by fire near Lake Macquarie. A spokesperson says the firefighters simply waited in a burnt-out area until the fire had passed. Alison Fletcher, NBN News.
Police chased two 18-year-old men into bushland behind houses in Torres Street at Charlestown after they failed to stop when ordered to at Gateshead. With the help of neighbours, the pair was eventually captured and later charged with traffic offences. Startled locals couldn't believe their eyes.
Next minute the grey car comes down and the police are chasing them and they jump out the car, so I told the kids to get out because I didn't know what was going on, and the kids ran through the bush, so it was pretty frightening.
It was first thought the pair may have been involved in a hold-up at the Gateshead post office just minutes earlier, but the pistol-wielding offender from that raid remains at large. And around the same time, the gift shop at Broadmeadow Railway Station was robbed by a man carrying a syringe filled with a red liquid. He too is yet to be captured. Jai Wallace has always found it hard to keep still since taking up trampolining at just 8 years of age. With the Sydney Games and a silver medal now behind him, it's time to live a bit.
Do everything that I want to do this year. I'm going to anything that comes up, I'm going to grab it. I'm going to go to uni, I'm going to work really hard, increase my profile, get fit again, do all those sort of things and just do everything that I can.
But it's also decision time. With Greece 2004 beckoning him to even greater heights, he's been leaning towards a switch to aerial skiing and the Winter Games, but knows it's going to take time whichever road he takes.
Sydney was just the ultimate, it was the biggest thing that we're ever going to experience, and I really don't think, even if I do go through to win a gold medal in Athens, I really don't think it's going to have that same feel about Sydney, so I'm really up in the air about it at the moment.
He'll never turn his back on the sport that's made him a star though. Even today he took time out to mix it with young gymnasts to show them a trick or two of his own. To become the first Australian to win a medal at both Summer and Winter Games though may be his greatest stunt ever. Jim Callanan, NBN News.
When police are called on for help in many cases, it's following domestic violence.
It's approximately 38% of general duties work attending domestic violence incidents.
But it's hoped brochures like these will make a difference. They will contain information on what support services are available and where to find them.
The main thing is phone numbers and addresses for external agencies and police and hospitals, etc.
And the information will be on hand at the time it's needed most.
We're there first on the scene usually, and so we should, our main aim is to protect the victim.
50,000 brochures will be printed following a $5,000 state government grant. The cheque handed over to the region's police today.
30 or more years ago, people tolerated it. You don't have to tolerate it today. There are ways of overcoming it.
The initiative is in line with other domestic violence projects in place throughout the region's local area commands. Brooke Webster, NBN News.
The defence contract to assemble 21 lead-in fighter aircraft at BAE Systems at Williamtown totalled $860 million. 19 of the Hawk training jets are already active at RAF Base Williamtown and RAF Base Pearce in Western Australia. Final assembly finishes in June, when the 186-strong workforce will be cut to 120 employees. Workers will continue maintenance on the training jets.
We sized the facility not just for the Hawk aircraft, but potentially for any aircraft which is built and supported for the Williamtown Air Base, the principal air base in the country.
The Australian government is presently investigating which fighter plane will best replace its FA-18s and F-111s beyond the year 2010. BAE Systems, here in the Hunter, is one of several international companies that will be vying for that multi-billion-dollar bid. It all hinges on studies known as the Air 6000 project.
Those studies have been conducted by the Australian government team in Canberra, and they're engaging the help of industry in the UK, in the US, and France and others to look at the capabilities of the next generation of aircraft.
BAE Systems is trying to convince the federal government of the positives of its Eurofighter prototype. The aircraft will soon replace the existing British fleet. A successful Williamtown contract could spell a massive jobs boost and a multi-million-dollar injection from the Hunter economy. A spokesperson for the Defence Force says any decision regarding replacing the country's 70 FA-18s is years away. Vanessa Trezise, NBN News.